Our working day, the topic of the first press conference is problems with medical supplies in Ukrainian hospitals. Our speakers are Olha Chuiko-Durbak, chairman of the charity organization International Association to Support Ukraine, and Viktor Hetmanczuk, president of the Ukrainian Canadian Foundation. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. As the moderator has mentioned, the topic of our press conference is medical support in Ukraine. When on the way here, I was thinking why Charity Foundation is executing the functions of the state. Maybe because the team of our foundation feels that we are part of the state. There is the government of the state, the business of the state, and we are part of that state, and we support it. As Roosevelt used to say, don't ask what the state does for you, ask what you can do for the state. So humanitarian assistance, that is very difficult to get all these supplies and transport them to Ukraine and get them through customs clearance. Canadians are mostly helping Ukraine. That was the case in the beginning of the 90s, and it is the case now. But what do the Ukrainian authorities do to help clear through customs and to make it easier to donate all that to hospitals? I can tell you nothing. We have dozens, tons of different permits to submit. Now I would like to introduce my colleague, my partner. I hope my good friend, Mr. Viktor Hetmanczuk, the director of the Congress of Ukrainians in Canada, the president of the Ukrainian Canadian Foundation, who was the first one who started doing all he could to help Ukraine. He motivates the governmental authorities and medical institutions in Canada to find medical equipment, which is so much required by our hospitals. I will give the floor to Viktor so that he tells you in more detail how that all is happening in Canada, how our Canadian friends understand the situation in Ukraine. How could the situation be changed? Thank you, Ola. You gave me that was just a small request. I'm pleased to speak here in the center and to report on what is the activities of the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. I will be talking about all these medical things. We have just finished the fourth medical mission to Ukraine. Our funds in the end of March will basically finish, and we do not know the new government of Ottawa whether they will be supporting, like the previous one, all our plans. We will be submitting for the second grant. We have done something for one hospital, but there is another military hospital which we would like to help. In Canada, we don't have such military hospital. We have just clinics. We have 30 clinics all over Canada. If something happens, I mean something related to military, and then in each Кожний вояк має карточку, що він може піти до
до госпіталю.
They go to hospital. I would like to mention that our system is a little bit different from yours, so we need to really understand that we cannot immediately bring our model to Ukraine.
Тижня до мене приступили люди і сказали, чи ви можете нам допомогти?
So people started asking, can you help us? Can you do something for medical nurses in Ukraine? And during this week, I've learned that in Ontario, we have the Canadian Nurses Association, and they have the program where they learn how what are the best practices in nursing all over the well, these are 44 best practice guidelines, and we are applying that in some other countries, and I will ask them how much. We translated them into several languages, and now I will ask how much that could cost so that we can translate this program into Ukrainian so that we can start trainers to Ukraine so that we start working with the nurses here. And at the second stage, they just here have a diploma. Where should we go to so that they upgrade their knowledge so that they have can get the bachelor's degrees. So we now want to step away from bringing equipment. We want to work in Ukraine and introduce some fundamental changes into your system so that we can really assist in that. Also, we bring new ambulances here, and 6 of the ambulances we brought to Kharkiv region, and we'll be making their mobile health units. To each ambulance, we will provide the equipment. This is a small clinic, and we'll go from village to village, and this clinic every day will open. There will be medicines there, nurses. I believe that the health is not as it should be, so via such mobile hospitals, we will be trying to change everything. Plus, it will be very important to support your decentralization, where everything comes from the top. We're looking at how these communities are developing in different regions and in different regions. We are looking for how how can we introduce changes into medical structure. And the third direction of our work, you know that Mykola is in Canada, and the big problem is rehabilitation. We have this program with nurses, but we need to look for whether there is a similar program of rehabilitation, and we would be glad to come back and give that to you. So these are 3 examples on how Canada will be cooperating with Ukraine in the future. Thank you, Victor. In fact, we started with humanitarian assistance, not to create some semi-banana country which is just looking for getting some equipment from different countries. We were trying to broaden the surgery table to organize the humanitarian mission of French neurosurgeons who in 2014 agreed to come to Ukraine as volunteers and to make surgeries in the military hospital and the hospital of the SSU. The military equipment is not a strategy. The strategy is new technology, new views. When we give medical equipment in the morning, you know that the reports are to be submitted in the beginning of the new year. Basically, we had the report, and we realized that we imported to Ukraine 50 million hryvnias, and the same amount of money was invested into the health of guys. When we were sending the guys to the countries of Europe or Canada or the US, we were motivating Western hospitals to take them free of charge, but that is not the way out. That is not the idea of myself or my partners. The main thing is to change the communities.
And this development, yes, medical equipment, ambulances, but we should support those who were wounded, who come after demobilization to the hospital, and only volunteers help them. And we say to doctors, so you call volunteers, you know, and you know that there is a list of medicines that are needed and equipment that is needed. But what is the difference? Why my colleagues and me are more motivated to help these guys, and you are not motivated as medical staff? And we help and we ask questions. And we try to find out what is going on. And the representatives of medical companies that dealing with the supply of medicines to Ukraine, procurement of medicines, they should be motivated to provide humanitarian help for the wounded, and the society should rise. There are a lot of volunteers, and we should go from the grassroots level and ask our top officials and to demand changes. And together with Canadians, and we created a small center, and we brought here and specialists, and we shared experience, and also we brought humanitarian missions, and we developed skills, and I call on everyone to support this level of help in Ukraine and have new prospects and view on this. We have some time for questions and comments. Colleagues, please, if you have questions, please ask. And introduce yourself first. Hey, it's Maria, UCMC. The first question to Mr. Hetmanczuk. Tell us, please, the project, ambulance project, when is going to start, and do you plan to cooperate with the Defense of the Patriot organization, because they work in this direction for a long time together with Catholic University, and they even start the school for rehabilitation specialists? I didn't got the first answer. When these ambulances are going to come, mobile hospitals, when will this project start? There are 6 ambulances. They are ready in Canada. We will make some modifications to them, and then we hope that it will be in July. They will be in Ukraine, and maybe 4 will go to Lugansk, and we will try to provide equipment to the east, because there were destruction of infrastructure, and to provide help to people there. And also we cooperate with Patriot Defense, but we have different projects, we have different partners. not one partner, but many. Those who work here in Ukraine, we search for different approaches. Thank you. And next question, Mr. Patyaga, 24th channel. I have a question to Olga about the medical equipment. What is the situation with this equipment? And is this corruption or underfinancing? What are the main problems? So we have problems with all equipment, but I would like to say that I'm not sure, but about this year, and chief doctors do not say about these procurements this year, so I didn't got this information from the doctors, but the medical fund and also equipment, it was not replenished, and this is not a fault of the doctors. And even there's no plans to provide multifunctional beds and hospital places in hospital. What is the reason why should people have these special beds? And what about special equipment? These they need financing, and electronic tender will be started, and I hope that then these procurements will be restarted, because we can't bring tons of equipment here. We bring breathalyzers and special beds, and we know that dialysis equipment and also equipment for surgical operations, and this equipment help to find different fragments of and defects that can be seen only via X-ray monitoring. And this equipment is expensive not only for Ukraine but for other countries as well. And we use the methods starting from 1990s. Bulgaria, Lithuania, they use this approach. They developed, and the state supported and created special cooperation programs. And I try to tell you it's difficult to clear tons of goods at the customs, and for us it is important how our wounded are treated. So you know that this is extinguishing the fire, but this is not a strategy. First, there should be e-tender, then there should be monitoring of the procedures, and we should also monitor the expenditures of the fund. And I don't know whether I answered your question, but we need all the equipment, starting from very simple elementary conditions for the patients. These are multifunctional seats and bedside tables, and to surgical room. So these are all important aspects. So thank you, and till the next time, goodbye.